Intro: Empire's Ghosts. Colonialism didn't end. It just changed its clothes. The ships returned, the flags came down, but the power games never stopped. The West loves to talk about democracy, equality, and integration. But walk through its cities, and you'll see the ghosts of empire alive in daily life. France still treats West Africa as its backyard. The UK parades its Commonwealth as proof of tolerance. Spain and Portugal celebrate explorers, while migrant workers sweat in their fields. Italy plays gatekeeper to the Mediterranean, blocking desperate boats while pretending to defend European civilization. And the Netherlands and Belgium still argue over Christmas costumes instead of facing the blood on their hands from Indonesia, Suriname, and the Congo. And what about integration? That word is repeated endlessly by politicians. But the reality is segregation. The banlieue of France. The boroughs of London. The ghettos of Brussels. These are not melting pots, they are fire traps, where alienation grows and crime festers. Europe wants to believe colonialism is history. But history has a way of breathing down your neck when you try to ignore it. The new colonialism is not about sending armies abroad. It's about failing your own people at home. France, the Republic's shadow. France still pretends to be the guiding light of liberty. It lectures the world about human rights, waves the tricolor with pride, and celebrates its values of the Republic. But take the train 20 minutes out of Paris, and you're in another world. The banlieue, endless concrete towers, poverty, unemployment, and anger. They are filled with the descendants of Algerians, Moroccans, Malians, people France once ruled with an iron fist. Integration? It's a myth. Ask the youth in Saint-Denis if they feel French. Many will laugh in your face. Schools are neglected, jobs are scarce, and policing feels more like occupation. Every few years, riots explode. Cars burn, shops smash, and politicians shake their heads in surprise, as if the fire wasn't smoldering all along. And outside France? Paris still sees West Africa as its private zone. Currency systems like the CFA franc keep countries tied to Paris. French troops protect regions, but also protect France's economic interests. Old colonial habits dressed up as stability. France likes to say it left empire behind. But in truth, it just moved the empire inside its own borders. UK, the Commonwealth mirage. The United Kingdom loves its image as a tolerant, multicultural society. It points to London, the global city, where everyone from everywhere supposedly has a place. It celebrates the Commonwealth as a family of nations. But scratch the surface, and the hypocrisy screams out. The Windrush scandal exposed it. Thousands of Caribbean immigrants who had lived in Britain for decades, paid taxes, built lives, were suddenly told they didn't belong. Some were deported, others denied healthcare and pensions. Integration? No. Betrayal? Absolutely. Policing tells the same story. Black and brown youth are stopped and searched at rates that make headlines year after year. Knife crime dominates certain boroughs, not because people are inherently violent, but because they are born into environments of neglect and exclusion. And what about class? Britain never solved its class divide, it simply layered race on top of it. Descendants of India, Pakistan, the Caribbean, and Africa are more visible in music and sports than in positions of power. Parliament talks diversity, but the real decisions still come from the same old elite. The Commonwealth is marketed as unity. But in practice, it's a branding exercise for a fading empire. The UK still profits from the narrative of connection, but it fails to give full dignity to the people who came from those very lands. Colonialism didn't vanish. It just moved into London's housing estates and job markets. Spain and Portugal, Latin echoes. Spain and Portugal built their identities on empire. Columbus, Vasco da Gama, Magellan, they are celebrated as heroes, their statues standing tall. But what about the descendants of the people conquered, enslaved, and exploited? Today, many of them walk the streets of Madrid and Lisbon. And they are not celebrated. They are cheap labor. Look in Spanish kitchens and fields. Migrants from Latin America and North Africa work long hours for low pay. Many are undocumented, vulnerable, and voiceless. Without them, agriculture collapses. But with them, society refuses to grant dignity. Portugal tells a similar story. It markets itself as open, tolerant, the California of Europe. But step into certain neighborhoods, and you'll see Cape Verdean or Angolan descendants struggling with discrimination and marginalization. Jobs are limited, housing is poor, and police interactions often escalate into violence. Meanwhile, both countries continue to glorify their explorers. Museums talk about discoveries, but rarely about massacres. The church bells ring for the past, but the present is ignored. Colonialism lingers in silence here. Spain and Portugal like to act like smaller players compared to Britain or France. But their colonial legacy is still alive in the way they treat the migrants who build their economies today. It's exploitation in softer packaging. Italy, the gatekeeper of the Mediterranean. Italy likes to pretend it was never a real empire. But history says otherwise. Libya, Somalia, Eritrea, all under Italian rule. Italy's colonial record is less discussed, but no less brutal. Today, that history echoes in the way Italy positions itself as Europe's front line against migration. Every summer, boats of desperate people cross the Mediterranean. Many never make it. Those who do are met with hostility. Camps in Libya, often run with European funding, hold migrants in horrific conditions: abuse, extortion, torture. Italy closes its ports, refuses rescue ships, and frames migration as an invasion. Inside Italy, African and Middle Eastern migrants fill the lowest-paying jobs. Agricultural workers in the south live in slums, picking fruit for pennies. Racism is open, loud, and political. Parties rise to power promising to defend Italians from the very people they exploit. And yet, Italy's own past is forgotten. The country demands that others integrate, but never reflects on how it failed to integrate its own colonial memory. The arrogance of empire remains, now projected as victimhood. Italy plays the victim of migration, while acting as judge and gatekeeper of who deserves humanity. The Netherlands and Belgium, forgotten wounds. The Dutch love to sell themselves as liberal, tolerant, modern. Belgium markets itself as the quiet heart of Europe. But their colonial crimes are some of the worst in history. The Netherlands ruled Indonesia with ruthless efficiency. Suriname and the Caribbean islands still carry scars. Migrants from these regions face discrimination in housing and jobs. They are Dutch on paper, but treated as outsiders in daily life. Belgium's Congo history is drenched in blood. Millions died under King Leopold's rule. And yet for decades, Belgium barely acknowledged it. Statues of Leopold still stand. Apologies are watered down. In Brussels, Congolese communities face unemployment and alienation. The so-called second generation still asks, why are we never truly Belgian? Even symbols reveal the denial. The Zwarte Piet tradition, painting faces black for Christmas, sparked global outrage. Yet defenders insist it's harmless fun. To the descendants of colonized people, it's an insult dressed as tradition. Both countries profit from their liberal image, but their silence on colonial legacies is deafening. The truth is clear. Tolerance has limits, and those limits always seem to stop at the descendants of their former colonies. Across Europe, the pattern repeats. Politicians preach integration. But bad policies, neglect, and racism created enclaves instead. France has its banlieue. Britain has its inner-city boroughs. Belgium has immigrant ghettos. These places are not bridges between cultures, they are walls built by exclusion. Second and third generations grow up in these neighborhoods. They are born in Europe, speak the language, hold the passport. Yet they are told, again and again, they are not fully French, not fully British, not fully Dutch. Identity becomes fractured. Alienation leads to anger. Anger sometimes leads to crime. Politicians then point at crime statistics as proof that immigrants cannot integrate, ignoring the cycles of poverty and discrimination that they themselves created. The enclaves become self-fulfilling prophecies. Police treat them as hostile zones. Schools underperform. Jobs don't arrive. And when frustration explodes, riots, protests, or worse, Europe acts surprised, as if it hadn't been warned for decades. This is the new colonialism. Not about armies abroad, but about controlling, neglecting, and blaming communities at home. Power without responsibility. Exclusion wrapped in the language of integration. Europe loves to lecture. It points fingers at China, Russia, and Africa. It speaks of human rights, democracy, equality. Its streets tell the real story. Colonialism never ended, it just came home. Instead of running plantations abroad, Europe built ghettos at home. Instead of resource extraction overseas, it exploits migrant labor in kitchens, fields, and factories. Instead of segregation in colonies, it enforces invisible borders inside its own cities. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. The same governments that talk about freedom abroad have created enclaves of despair at home. The same societies that celebrate diversity refuse to give dignity to the descendants of those they once ruled. The new colonialism is not about conquering new lands. It's about refusing to face the past, and punishing the present generation for it. It's about neglect, exclusion, and silence. Power never disappears. It only changes costume. Europe's costume today is democracy, equality, integration. But the fabric is thin, and the seams are tearing. This was episode 3 of Power Games. Next week, we'll go deeper again, because if you want to understand how power really works, you have to see the hypocrisy not only abroad, but at home.